All right, well, this is Aaron Squire coming to you guys again, episode 31 with Mokog, but really, Serious Business Games wasn't able to make it, so we did a pre-recording with him. So we're going to start off with that. Tonight, we're going to be talking about, we're going to be doing that interview, talking about some of the patch updates, going over a quick RPG Maker, where it is that I basically put Mokog in one of my games. I'm going to go show you guys like that scene from the game. We're gonna do the we're gonna talk about Google slash YouTube buying out Twitch and what that really means to people. And then we're gonna do a deck doctor where it's gonna be basically a mill deck hiding in a more aggressive deck shell type of deck. So stay tuned, and we're gonna go right into the interview with MSB. So I'm gonna set this up. Mokog, say hi, I guess, while I'm setting
everybody.
this up. So
I'm not one to terribly interject when I'm getting an intro.
yeah, it's probably best. It's probably for the best. All right, so we're gonna go right over to it.
Movie time. Movie time. Movie time.
And all right, well, this is Aaron Squire coming to you guys again with this pre-recorded interview with Mr. Serious Business Games. This guy is the radio voice of Hex. He is out there putting out these videos, YouTube videos. This is how he really sounds, people. So don't get on him about how it is that, oh yeah, he's making his voice deep so he can sound like that guy from that introduces all the movies to us. Although he could probably replace that guy. But yeah, so he's on the show. So Serious Business, talk to me about your TCG background. Talk to me about that first.
Sure. Well, of course, thanks for having me on the show, Aaron Squire. I really appreciate it. My TCG background, gosh, I started with Magic the Gathering, as did a lot of people, and that was when I was in high school. I played Magic until the Mirage Vision era. Did a couple local tournaments, nothing humongous, but then eventually dropped off. From there, gosh, I've tried everything. I did the White Wolf werewolf game, the vampire game, the very first Star Wars TCG.
Yeah, which I have behind me. I have most of everything except for the
Yeah.
last two sets. Hey, I have a
Exactly.
question about the vampire game. Hey, did they tap
Yeah.
cards by turning them upside down? I seem to
I
remember
think
that.
Yeah, I think they did.
Because
that was
you can't turn cards sideways because Magic owns that functionality.
yeah, no kidding. And what a ridiculous thing to do, but yeah. And then from there it was Legend of the Five Rings. Got big into that.
Right.
Played some Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. Basically, if there has been a TCG, I probably sunk at least a booster box worth of money into it. But yeah, now it's just sort of coming around to Hex. Wow, yeah.
Right, right. So on that note, what brought you around to Hex, or how'd you find out about it?
Wow, it was really lucky. I was just so happening to stop by MMO Champion, the site, because I played World of Warcraft at the time, and they had an article about Hex as it was in Kickstarter, and I was like, well, let's go ahead and take a look. This sounds interesting. I love TCGs, so may as well. I jumped into it, and that was when the Kickstarter campaign was I don't know, less than a week old.
Right.
So immediately pledged at the pro player tier because I was like,
Yeah, free
one
drafts
draft
for life.
per week for life. How amazing is that deal?
Yeah.
And then I sat around for like another week and thought about it, did more research on the company, did more research on digital TCGs, which had increased in popularity, and thought, you know what? I really think this is going to be the game. And decided to multi-pledge at that point.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's pretty much like what I did. My brother talked to me about the game, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is just a Magic clone. But then I looked at it deeper, and I was like, yeah, this is. There's a lot more going on here, and
Yeah.
this is something I need to get on. And so I was back and forth on what I want to do with my pledges and pledge level for a little while, and got on the train. So luckily, I'm one of the people that got on and was able to get into the Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's funny now seeing all the people who are coming into the game, and we've been around each other for so long, the Kickstarter backers. It's so interesting seeing the game from fresh perspectives, where it's like, oh wait, you just found out about this. So it's that's sort of the target of one of my new series of videos that are coming out now. Is sort of looking at those people who don't even know what Hex was when we've been around it for so long.
Right, Right, yeah, and that's definitely going to be an important thing because all the time on the forums, I hear people, especially on the Reddit forums, that are all like, if I'm new to TCGs, where do I go? What do I do? And I always point them to, what's his name? Jake Freedom, who does a great series for beginners because he also is
Yeah.
very much a beginner himself. For
Mhm.
veterans, we tend to take a lot of things for granted, and so like I talk at a very high level, and I don't see myself going away from that. But I do usually point people to him or other people that try to do new series. I know that you've done quite a few like card breakdowns. That was like your original thing that you did with Hex. Talk to me about that a little bit. Like, what was that like doing those?
Doing the
The
card
card breakdowns,
breakdowns.
yeah. Or
Ooh.
what made you decide doing them and that type of thing?
You know, when I started my content production, I had never done any recording, no video editing, no streaming, no nothing. Like there was no post production experience, no Photoshop, zip. And I decided to take a week off work. I was so pumped about Hex that I was like, you know what, I'm going to start doing stuff. And I downloaded that god awful Windows Media.
Windows Media Player? Or
Yeah,
media, what is it? I use it actually still.
oh,
Windows,
yeah, I can't
Windows
even
Movie
remember what the
Maker.
name of it is.
Windows Movie
Maker.
Maker.
Thank you.
Yeah, I still
Yes,
use it.
I downloaded that and I started doing my videos on the like a PowerPoint, the PowerPoint Open Office PowerPoint.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I'd record a section like per each slide, and then I'd be like splicing them together. So it's like at the start it was horribly robotic, but the idea behind the card breakdowns was an attempt to get myself sort of used to generating content because I had never done anything like that before. Doing sort of on a card by card basis, especially when they started releasing new ones, it became a really good way to just sort of start talking about the cards. And then I was able to also touch on PvE. And I think that sort of helped me develop as a content producer and helped to sort of get the word out that, hey, there's this new TCG coming. And got a lot more people sort of taking a look at it.
Right. I'd say, yeah, as a content producer, you're probably the person with the most PvE content because you did all those card breakdowns and you talked about the PvE gear behind them, which is something I basically never talk about. I tried to do it, but I was having troubles with tcgbrowser.com, and I tried to do a PvE deck once and it just wasn't happening, so I kind of like I've shelved it for now.
Well, and when that PvE comes out, I mean, everyone's going to be all over it because it sounds fantastic. Can't
Oh
wait.
yeah, yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, you're going to be building decks in completely different ways for sure. So let's see. The other thing I wanted to talk about was your website, which I have up right now, Mr. Serious Business Games. This is where we're going to go to get most of your content. Do you do any streaming, or talk to me about your content?
Well, my content now, I do weekly content every Friday, Australian time,
Hmm.
which ends up being Thursday American time. Um, and yeah, I have right now a series that's coming out, Hex Basics, which basically goes into things like, you know, all the basics that we were talking about, like card types, you know, what priority is, what the stack is, basic deck building. I'll be going over like jargon and some simple deck concepts, both for draft and constructed. And then in addition to that, uh, if you look at my channel,
Hmm. Which I
and
am.
yeah, so it's Serious Business Games with the business BSNS.
Right.
Um, I've really gone out there for some wacky things. Like I've done some Let's Plays, I've done some game reviews of non-digital TCG stuff, but really my focus is on the digital TCG side of it. Especially now that Hex is really warming up, and we get this closed beta. We've got the permanent collections. I also touch on Hearthstone as well, and with my basic, when I talk about my basic Hex establishments, you know, with the videos, with the
Right.
mechanics, I also touch on Hearthstone and the differences between, like, hey, if you're a Hearthstone player, because there's lots of them,
There are a lot.
here's the difference, because I want to get those people into Hex, because I don't think the two games are incompatible. I think you can play both,
Oh
and so
yeah, for sure.
I want to start filtering those people and say, hey, look, it's not scary, it's easy. Here's the differences between the two, and
Right.
here's why it's interesting.
Right.
So I'll be sort of running both of those contents side by side with definitely a focus on Hex.
Right. Yeah, I have seen a lot of people that come on the Reddit forums and they say, "Oh yeah, I used to play Hearthstone, or I'm still playing Hearthstone, and I kind of wanted a deeper experience. Talk to me about this game. Tell me how to get into it." Of course, a lot of people are looking for beta keys, and more and more are going out. You just got to look for them. I actually recently got one, so I should hopefully be giving it away tomorrow. I just have to get some sort of mechanism to do that in place.
Yeah.
So on the content production though, both of us are fathers. You're a new father. I was a father back in October, and now he's what, 6 months old. Yeah, I mean, so I want to talk about how it is that content producers like us, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll get excited about something and they'll try to do one video a day, which is not something I would suggest. Doing one video a day really pigeonholes you into something where it's like, oh, if you don't do it, then you start falling behind. I think one a month or one a week are much better goals, and that way it leaves room that if you want to do more, you can, and then it's a surprise for all your viewers, and you can kind of throw it out there. But the one a week or one a month holds you to a better schedule. What do you have to say about that?
Well, you really hit the nail on the head. When I first started doing my card breakdowns, for my first 30 videos, I did them once a day, and like it nearly drove me insane.
Right.
Keeping up that production schedule. At that time, I've got 2 kids now, but at that time it was just the one.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got family. I work full time. Trying to do this and teach myself productions. I do nothing about it, and I'm doing one video per week, one video per day, and it was just insane. You don't realize the amount of time and effort that anything from a scripted piece to live casts. There's so much in the background. And you're definitely right, Aaron Squire. If you try to do more than once per week or once per month, and I'd start out saying, hey, if you're new and you've never done this, you're right. Once per month is the right way to go.
Right.
Because what you really want to do is just start practicing those the basics. And if you try and push yourself too hard, you're going to burn out, and worse, you're probably never going to come back to it again. And then
it's
possible
possible.
Sort of lost that content.
Right, exactly, and for some people it's just not for you. So I encourage people to try it out. I mean, I'm always going to encourage more producers. I don't care if your content is good or bad or what the community thinks about it, but more producers is always better for the market, in my opinion. I'm definitely a free market type of person. I'm not someone that wants to try to muscle people out and be like, don't go over here because this person's horrible. No, I'm not going to say that, particularly even if I was thinking it. So I really am someone that obviously with all the interviews and stuff I do, I'm trying to reach out to the community and make sure that you guys know of some of these other people where, if you come to my channel and you see MSB, then you may not have seen him before, although he's all over YouTube. And it's probably not a great example because he's all over. But if you go to MSB and you see me, now we've kind of connected, and it's really just good for business, I guess you could say, as in the business of being seen, not really the business of making money.
Exactly. And that's so important. That's why I love your show, because I've got to sort of connect with people that I knew from the forums from a long time ago, but now you sort of get that more personal connection. And especially when we played each other in game, it was just like it was back to playing Magic again. Sorry, I don't know if that's
like you're sitting across the table from me, but it's across the pond or the other pond.
Where I'm in Australia and you're in America, and we've had some chit chat, and while we're playing our draft game, it's suddenly a community again, and that's a fantastic feeling to sort of have at your disposal.
Yeah. I mean that in that particular game, I was like, this is looking pretty bad for me the whole time. I was like, he's giving up a lot of card advantage here, and like you can hear me talk over the video, and it's So I hope you won that draft, by the way.
I got second.
Okay, well that's acceptable.
It was really unfortunate that in the final round I went 1 and 2. It was my opponent had Blood Diamond with Swift Strikers. And,
that's what I was saying. I was like, well, if I had some Swift Strikers, that would really ruin his day.
and it was that, and then one of the 2 games I was mono flooded. Sorry, I was resource flooded again, which is what happened in one of our matches where I had 14 Game resources in the draft deck, and then 2 Crimson Clarities. Yeah, and then 2 Crimson Clarities. And what I did is I'd pull 3 or 4 in hand, and then 3 turns in a row I'd draw resources. I'm like, what? I only need 2. There was one game in the draft, not to touch on it too much, but there was one game that I won that went 6 turns with me with 1 resource, and I still won because I had so much cheap stuff.
So many spells, yeah.
Yep, but yeah, That's what happened. Sorry to let you down.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. So I would say that I do a lot of deck doctoring and stuff, and MSB also does a ton of deck building, not really deck doctoring yet. I don't know if he's trying to do that in the future, but if you've watched a lot of his Hearthstone videos, I've actually watched his Hearthstone videos and actually tried out those decks that he's got on there. He also does a lot of the cheaper budget decks, which I think is a good thing as well. So I would say that if you are looking for someone else to go to for deck doctoring, besides Hex TCG Bro, of course, MSB is pretty good for a lot of that stuff.
Thank you very much.
So just one other thing, this week we've got an announcement from Corey. Basically, he's just talking about how it is that we are not going to back down from this. We've got a legal team in place. We've been preparing for this. He's worked on the game for 3 years before this even started, before they even really got to Kickstarter phases. So, this isn't just some fly-by-night company. They're going to stand up and fight. And so I think it was really a good thing on his part. It's just kind of a preliminary. It's not the actual response. But, MSB, talk to me about this. What do you think about this?
I thought it was a fantastic response from Corey. Initially, when you see something like a big company attacking a smaller company, everyone gets really timid about the longevity of the smaller company.
Right.
And I think that Corey had basically the rally banner out. He was very interested in making sure that everyone knew how much they believed in the game, and we're getting people sort of energized about, hey, look, we're going to fight it. I love the language that he used in the response. Lots of really good emotive words, it's the dream. This is the frivolous lawsuit. There's lots of really good emotive language to kind of get people sort of more positive about the situation, which is really easy to sort of get really depressed when something like that happens.
Right. I mean, like we said on last week's episode, whenever you're dealing with lawyers, they're going to use like the worst possible language. I mean, it's just like everything else. It's a one-sided argument, on both sides. So, I mean, you see this like if you watch like Fox News or MSNBC or CNN, whenever you have like the two people on, the one person that's on one side, like let's say like Republicans versus Democrats, like the Republican's going to say something and they will completely leave out facts, and the Democrat has to bring them up, or vice versa, and the Democrat will do the same thing. They'll leave out facts, so the Republican has to bring it up. So I'd really, it's the same type of argument scheme that goes on with lawyers, and so things will get more to actual facts eventually, and that's just the way things are.
And I think,
go ahead.
And it's funny, especially now, because I mentioned this, I think, in one of my quick conversations, was right now, Wizards has targeted the individual moment when Hex could be most seen as being similar to Magic. Right. I mean, as soon as stuff like dungeons, raids, equipment, auction houses, trading, questing, characters, as soon as all that stuff's in, when you take a look at the two games, there's going to be a lot of differences. So they've really specifically targeted this suit for this exact moment while the game is where it is.
Right, exactly. I mean, they're just barely in a monetized state right now, and so if anything, this might also be good for people that are trying to get into closed beta, because I've seen a ton of beta keys going out, because more people in closed beta equals more money that people are spending on those drafts, and those drafts are ridiculously cheap compared to basically every other physical TCG out there, because they don't have to worry about physical overhead.
Especially because unlike Hearthstone, where people were also trained with drafts, where they got sort of their initial basis for it, you keep the cards for release. So that's another really big draw right now. It's cheap, and it has a meaningful impact on your account moving forward. So that's really good.
$7 is about the price of fast food. So, I mean, you really can't do much better than that for cheap entertainment. I mean, it's less than a movie if you live in California. It's just a really good price, I'd say.
I'd say that we've got the makings of possibly a health ad that needs to go out. Save yourself the fast food, play a draft of Hex. I like where you're going.
I think that's pretty good, actually. Yeah, maybe
we need some posters.
I'll send that idea over to what's his name, to William.
There you go. Yeah, get working on that.
Yeah, somebody in the community needs to do that. Uh,
So think of all the bad things you can do with that $7, and then how much better it is for your life to just do a draft in Hex.
Yeah, or like it shows like kids in Africa starving or something, but that probably wouldn't go the right way.
No,
That would go the opposite way, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't feed starving children. Play Hex.
Play Hex, or the other way. No. What would you do to help a starving child? Give him a Hex draft, and also food. And food.
And maybe some food.
And
a computer.
You know, just put a McDonald's over there and then have it, free Wi-Fi and Hex drafts. So there you go.
You're going off. You're going off the deep end.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I want to talk about. So yeah, make sure to check out MSB. MSB just plug your material one more time, and then we'll do our sign-offs.
Sure thing. So you can either go to my website, which is seriousbusinessgames.com. The business is BSNS. My YouTube channel is, again, Serious Business Games, BSNS. I'm always sort of hunting around the forums and whatnot, although I don't really have a lot of time to post. But always feel free to stop by, leave a comment. I love input and suggestions. Most of my videos actually come from the suggestions that people leave in comments. So please, let me know.
Okay, and then one last thing on that is content providers. Are you opening up at all to content providers? You're in Australia, so you're one of our people down that in the land down under. Yeah, that's
land
the
of
song.
down under
That's the song.
Something
yes.
Like I'm American, so I don't even know.
Oh, okay. All right. But I mean, are you looking for content producers in that time zone or anything?
It's funny. I made sort of the umbrella Serious Business Games with the possibility of being able to have other people producing content, but I never really sort of considered it. Right now I'm just sort of a one-man show. I like hanging out and having a good time. If people want to contact me via my YouTube channel, please go ahead. Worst case scenario, we have a quick chat about what you're doing, and I can give you some advice, if nothing else, if not a place to actually display your content on my website. So yeah, definitely open.
Right. All right. So other than that, this is Aaron Squire signing off, saying God bless you and your families, and Mr. Serious Business saying,
wishing you good games and good times.
All right, and we're back. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, Serious Business came on pretty early in the morning on Thursday morning to get that recorded for us. So yeah, it was really good that we were able to work that out. And so we're going to go right into the update of the Hex. Today we had a quick update. They're talking about the auction house mostly, and so this is what it's going to look like for everyone. So Mokog, I hope you're listening, so that you've turned on your mic now, because I told him to turn it off. It looks like he might be here, sort of. If he's here,
I'm here.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
here.
Talk to me about the. I mean, this is your forte, right? Because you are a financial type person. So I mean, you're pretty excited about this, right?
Oh yeah. Excited, just a small understatement. Just kind of taking a look at the UI that they've laid out so far, it melds in really well with their present UI. It definitely looks like it could use a couple bells and whistles, but the things to really take a look at is, so far they have it set up to have PvP cards available for gold, as well as available for platinum. We don't know if that's reversed yet, because we don't see any PvE cards in the screenshots that they've released, but it's already important that you can get PvP cards for gold.
Right.
So that means that it's going to be easier for PvE only players who just put in the time to start being able to get the cards.
Right.
That's really important.
Another thing I think that's interesting is, we kept talking about whether there was going to be a bid or a buyout. It shows the bid, the buyout prices, so you can set it either way, just like the World of Warcraft auction house. And then it also looks like it's showing you time, not exact time, which I think is another important thing, which is just like the World of Warcraft, where it would be like, short, medium, or long type of thing. And this says 24 to 48 hours, which would obviously be long type of time frame.
Yeah, the decision to do that's understandable, but there's also arguments against it. The biggest reasons you want to be able to do that is the simplicity aspect of it. It's easy to understand. It gives you a relative time frame. It gives you that understanding of based on what your daily life would end up being. You understand what an 8-hour block is, a 12-hour block, a 48-hour block.
Right.
A lot of what was advocated on the forums was much more concise to actually the stock trading, and which is really good for extracting value between individuals, which is one of the reasons why Wall Street uses it. But you don't want that as your interface UI for the game aspect, because it really puts a layer of complexity into the economy you don't want to track as a game company. Too much complexity breeds errors, and so you have a simpler auction house so that it has much more understandable controls.
Right. I guess that like the buyout system where it just kind of shows you a general time frame will be better for the buyer, because that encourages people more or less to do a lot more buyouts, whereas the bid system is better for the seller, right? Because then that people kind of like get into these bidding wars sometimes, and so that can obviously drive some prices up. Would that be accurate?
It's partially accurate. So a bidding war is going to happen whether there's a buyout price or not, but a buyout allows you to set a minimum price floor. And so that's actually really good for the seller to be able to set a minimum. They give up a little bit of the top end of the value tree to get a more sustainable set of value over time. It makes selling easier.
Right.
And when selling's easier, that means you have good supply from people's collections, which means you get cards down into those who don't necessarily want to pay the same kind of money that you and I pay.
Right. Beyond that, they talk about the streamer giveaways. I wasn't sure if people were getting keys for these streams or not, but it sounds like they'll be going out next week. So I have one key. Everyone that's already in the beta, I believe, got one key. So I'll be giving away my one key tonight later on with my high-tech Dungeons and Dragons dice setup that I tweeted out earlier. So before we go any further, I put Mokog in my recent RPG game, so we're just going to watch this footage real quick. So I'm going to see Mokog's reaction here.
I want to see it. Now it's going to be delayed a little bit just because I'm seeing it on the stream.
Yeah, you down there.
So don't be disappointed if I'm
anywhere near the temple thief.
I'm waiting.
All right,
for
dude. Now that I'm down here, it's on like
Let's
Donkey Kong. That's right. Why don't you talk into the microphone?
Running around.
Mokog shakes his fist at you. Got my backup mic right here. Mokog shakes his other fist at you. Checking 1, 2.
Am I the noob?
Testing. You're the one that's calling me a noob.
Speaking into his
hands
as if
they were
microphones.
You're the one that just jumped down the cliff. And they don't like no feedback. What's up? Sweet. All right, so there you go. That's Mokog's triumphant. And he fights me, and then he joins you. Yeah. So there's obviously lines from Joe Dirt, if you guys have seen that. Next big thing on here is Google/YouTube buying out Twitch. Now, we weren't sure early on in the week, and I believe it was even maybe last week that this was a thing. But according to Forbes magazine, if you go down to the bottom here, they said that basically update. The Verge is reporting that Twitch is being fielded by multiple buyout offers, including from Microsoft, but ultimately is decided on Google. Sources are saying the price has been decided, but now it's Twitch's autonomy that has to be discussed. According to these news sources, they echo the original Variety report. It's a done deal. So Twitch is getting bought out by YouTube, and if any of you guys have dealt with YouTube as a content producer, you know that they love to block videos or make you pay for videos, or rather put commercials on them when you use like other people's content that is like music and stuff. And even when it isn't, like it's like your own music, sometimes there are companies out there, these tiny little companies that will go out and they own all these different things, and they'll just claim that it's their music even though that it isn't, and then you try to counterclaim it, and it doesn't always work quite right. Normally it does, but not always. And so that's one of the biggest problems that they're seeing. Another thing that we're talking about was region locking. So that means that basically, like, if I do certain things on my videos, a lot of times people in Germany can't see it because they have different rules on what they can and cannot see. Mokog, are you following this at all, or what do you think about this?
Following it, most definitely. I try to keep up on anything that YouTube is doing, and now what Twitch is doing, and especially what Google's doing. There's good and bad in this. So from a technology perspective, Google has the right kind of technology to make Twitch more stable and more ubiquitous. That's the reason why Twitch is really interested in this. The downside of it is that because Google is the powerhouse that it is, it's under a lot more restrictions and a lot more scrutiny than what Twitch is used to. So Twitch has its own legal team. Twitch handles these same kind of copyright issues, but the methodology that they use presently to handle it is much looser and a lot more beneficial for the ease of the creator to produce.
Right. Yeah, they're definitely a lot looser, especially
difference.
about music, because like people all the time will be playing music in their streams. But the thing is, like Twitch doesn't necessarily record your stuff forever. It's like live only, and so it's a lot. You know, like the way it's monetized and stuff. It's like if people want to tune into it, I don't know. I'm not sure if that really makes a difference if you're playing somebody else's licensed music. Probably not. But
Yes,
it's a lot harder to
does.
track. It's a lot harder to track. I know that.
It's a lot easier to track than you think, just because they don't keep it recorded for a long period of time, but everything that you do on there is recorded if you want it to, and if you're trying to build a brand, you are recording. But the biggest difference between the YouTube setup for monetization and Twitch is much more selective on what and who they monetize. The bar for getting in is much, much higher. It's like being a partner for YouTube a couple years ago. You had to have a certain bar, a certain level of subscribers before you even had a chance at monetizing. That's much more what it's like Twitch right now. So if you got 200 concurrent viewers every time you get on, that's a real effort. Like my average stream at, as a like kind of a daily thing might pull 7 or 8 people, but when you take someone like Revolution, who is doing fantastically, pulling 50 to 60, or Neo, who's pulling like 100, Neo's only halfway to what Twitch considers monetizable.
Right.
And that's the low end of their monetization. YouTube, on the other hand, you can create an account, have one video up, and within like 3 or 4 videos have full access to the partner tools and monetization in YouTube. So because it's so much easier to monetize, they have to be stricter for all the new people coming in. And that makes a big difference because they have so much more input. There's so much more copyright violation that Google instituted the draconian system to protect themselves. Do I like it? No, I think it's retarded. And I use that word specifically and purposefully. I think it is retarded. I think it is backwards. It pushes back the creativity. It pushes back the implementations that could be done from the content. It is a retarded system. It retards creative growth. It is bad, but they have to protect themselves from legal.
Right, exactly.
They have to protect themselves from the Wizards of the Coast of the world.
Right. Well, the tiny Wizards of the Coast of the world.
Well, compared to Google, the ever-growing empire of
right. Well, that's the other
things.
thing it talked about. How it is that Twitch was the only thing that has a chance of rivaling Google, or rivaling YouTube, and now they're joining forces. So that's the other thing they talked about in there, is that they could become some sort of monopoly. Although I have seen some alternate video services that have started to like pop up here and there, but it's really just so hard because everyone's like, oh, it's on YouTube, because they have such a foothold now. Obviously I'm a YouTube partner, so like I think hopefully it'll be good, because what will happen is like as an AdSense person, that they will the AdSense will just carry over to Twitch, and then it'll be Google AdSense will run ads, and then I'll basically get, and it'll become one account instead of just having these 2 different accounts.
Well, money-wise, that's good and bad. So Twitch's monetization system can be more advantageous to a small-time creator than Google
YouTube.
AdSense.
Yeah. Google AdSense is, I still haven't seen a dime, really. I mean, because to make at least $100, I'm not even close to that. that's just how it is. So the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to the Deck Doctor, or while I guess we start the Deck Doctor, is you produced a video in response to the lawsuit between Hex TCG or Hex LLC and Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro. So talk to me about that. Like, why did you produce it so quickly, and what were some of your thoughts in that video?
I saw that story break on Twitter, and then I verified it while I was sitting at work, and I just stewed on that while I was at work. And
so you did what I told people not to do. You got angry about it.
Well, I said I stewed on it. I thought about it.
Okay.
There was a lot of emotion in that, and it wasn't my most clear and concise thinking at the time.
Right.
But I had an outline and things of what were going on, but there's some justifications behind it. As you mentioned before in your interview with MSB, I follow a very similar line when it comes to principles and freedoms and all of those good quality American values. But as you're growing up and as you're turning into an adult and all that stuff, you start realizing that if you want to start keeping towards principles, a lot of what you're initially taught is against such principles. And one of the things that I was taught in my business school was the value of protecting your intellectual property, the tools used in litigation, what that means, that it's the right thing for a company to do, the pros and the cons. What ends up coming across when you start valuing what liberty means, when you start learning what it is to be a creative individual, when you start seeing for yourself what it takes to get stuff done, you realize that small companies are being pushed out through litigation, and just getting to the point of being a small company, getting 10 people together to work on something consistently and produce is almost a Herculean effort. Someone with a small idea that could turn huge and giant has to put in hours and hours and hours of iteration, and they can suddenly be shot down because someone else filed something with the government faster.
Or it's just closer. It's too close to what they already have or other things. You know, you have this.
Even if it was independent development. So if you think about that from a moral standpoint, what's more moral? Should both be able to compete on merits and selling to different individuals, or should we have Big Daddy government come in and say, well, son A over here decided to file this paperwork first, so he's going to be able to take all of your assets and laugh at you while you never sell your product. Your dreams didn't matter, son B. You're the prodigal son. Go figure something else out. That's a bit hyperbole, and I will admit.
Right? Yeah. It's a bit extreme, but yeah, I mean,
it's the effect of it.
Right.
Just Google the litigation that Wizards of the Coast has done, and especially since they've been bought by Hasbro, it's not uncommon. It happens every day. It happens to different points, and they're not just protecting IP. It's not as though you have a clone of Magic the Gathering. I mean, like a literal clone, like where they've taken Magic the Gathering online, and they called it Magic the Gathering semi-online, and put it somewhere else to play.
Or I've seen a parody called something the Bothering. It was like
Magic the Bothering.
No, it was something else like the Bothering, but it was a parody type of thing just for kicks, just for S and Gs.
So if you think about it, so let's say that parody was really hilarious.
Right.
Let's say all of its cards were spot on. It really told you an awful lot about it made a really good commentary about the styles of playing Magic the Gathering. Maybe it made some commentaries on how they release stuff. Well, given the patent definitions, given the trade dress allegations they brought against Hex TCG, all the same things that they put in their current lawsuit, they could file and shut down a satirical parody. Well, it's still First Amendment speech, y'all. Creating a game is First Amendment speech still. Just because you sell it doesn't change it from not being a art form. I mean, we argue art in games all the time.
Havoc the Bothering.
Havoc the Bothering.
That's what it was called. Yeah.
Oh my God, is that where Havoc got his name? Because if so,
no, it's not. But I mean, yeah, it actually would like qualify for that trade and dress because like the card looks like a pool table, but it's like the magic backing and everything. Like it would actually follow the trade and dress part and all that stuff.
And so, just going in it, and that's in my idea, there's a very limited scope that litigation is useful for. Litigation is for when you have an obvious, specific copying of all aspects that make an intellectual property with no significant evolution of design, form, function, or artistic capacity. And so what that does is that even in Havoc the Gathering or whatever its name was, enough artistic variation allows it to be its own thing, its own little satire, its own little play on words. It's not going to replace Magic. It's not going to produce the sets like Magic. It's not going to have the tournament infrastructure of Magic. It's not going to have the design and investment in the backup of Magic. So why on earth does Wizards of the Coast need to sue? They're not taking that much money, and even if they were taking that much money, it's all the people who don't want to play Magic. Why don't you just pull up a guy who's great at marketing, spin it off into a little war, whoop their tail in the market anyway by bringing out another one of your 3 sets per year, and then go make more
Getting a
money.
little bit passionate. I'm feeling the passion right now. So
well, and it's a passionate subject for me, and,
Right,
and that's one of
right.
the things. That's one of the, that kind of thing is the reason why I had to make the video, is
Right.
because to me that type of action is not even choosing the easy way out; it's choosing the uncreative way out. It's actually more or less an insult to the quality of your game designers. I mean, basically, you're going, "Oh, I don't believe you have the capacity to compete with Hex TCG,
Sure.
so we're going to send our lawyers after you." That's
Sure.
freaking amazingly insulting to those guys. They are creative. They're good guys. Have you looked at their marketing campaign? Oh my god.
Right. So I don't want this to go too long. So we'll just kind of close it out here. So if you guys do feel that passionate, you can check out Mokog's video. He put it out last week. It's on your YouTube, I believe.
Yep.
You know, and just like I keep saying, you know, if you want to be passionate, that's fine. Just make sure it is that it's in the right place and that you're still respecting other players of other card games, especially Magic players. And you know, if you're not getting the same respect back from them, that's fine. Don't, you know, it's really best to just end the conversation. I would say. You know, things are. It's going to get worked out. It's going to go where it needs to go. So we're going to go to this deck right now. So what he wants to do is he wants to have a win con where basically he's going to make his opponent draw all their cards. Originally the deck had a lot of stuff in his 2-point range and it only had like 8 wild cards. So we're going to take a look at that. And there's the plug for his video.
Shameless video
plug. Okay. And so we had to figure out what champion to put in here, and what he really told me was what Meatchip told me is he said I want to have a deck where it is that it's strong and it comes out and they're kind of surprised with the mill win condition that this deck has. So kind of like let's go back and we got to pick a champion for this deck. I need to get rid of Shards of Fate, and let's go ahead and do all colors, no colors. And champion. So we could go with Wyatt, which is typically what I think I would do. What else could we do? We don't want really Manikishin.
You know,
it depends. If we're gonna go more ramp, we could go Running Deer.
You know, I like the idea of Running Deer, and because I love the mill mechanic, I like trying to find a good way to make it work. And the core of the surprise of the mill by dropping the sharded Battle Beetle. That takes a good bit of time to set up, and
Right.
a lot of what he's going for is flyers, bounce, and control. So really, the way the deck is built now, it's kind of a control draw shell with mill added into it.
Right.
So what that really needs, though, is it either needs the ability to swing in and end the game early, or it needs a way to draw it out more. So Running Deer is fantastic, since he's also running wild.
Yeah, he's running wild all over the place.
So, I mean, you know...
So one of the ones we're going to cut like right off the
Yeah.
bat is going to be this Spawn of Uthieg. Both Mokog and I talked about it before the program. He really doesn't do a lot for you. He's a 1/1. He's more for like an actual like all mill deck, and even then, it's still really hard to get this guy through. Your opponent needs like 1 flyer. His back end's a 1, which is like, you know, that's like not even a 2-point back end, so it's really easy to take this guy down. So we're just going to get rid of him. If he cost maybe 1 more and his back end was 3, then maybe it'd be a little bit better. But still, like, yeah, he's just too easy to deal with.
Well, and if you think about the design of him, the design of a 1/1 flyer is early aggression,
Right.
but swinging and hitting that initial card is not as efficient a use when you're also running that control shell. So with the control side, you're not wanting him for a 1/1 blocker. You'd want something with the back end like the Phoenix Guard would be a good example, something that can take a little bit.
Right.
But
I had a question
he doesn't even work all that well in draft either.
Right. I had a question early on while we were doing the video, while I was doing the video with MSB earlier, and he asked, someone asked me like, do I do deck doctoring? Yes, I do. Make sure to send them to me either via my YouTube, my Twitch, or my Twitter. You can either post me like a link to a Hex TCG browser. If you do it in here, I really appreciate that. But if not, that's fine. You can go ahead and you can just send me even just a screenshot or something, and I can usually input it pretty easily that way as well. So I kind of want some ramp elements in here because that'll deck thin maybe for us. Now that Chlorophyllia does deck thin, that kind of helps. I was thinking about Boulder Brute because I didn't see a lot of stuff in our 5-point range. I wanted to get a good curve going on. I know that we want these battle beetles in here, but I'm thinking about getting rid of just one of them.
I think we can cut down the battle beetle because he has 3 in there now, right?
We can definitely get rid of Flock because Flock is not going to be like, we're not really trying to hold on. We're trying to be aggressive. So
I mean, and for instance,
so we're going to cut one battle
beetle.
beetle.
On 2, but you'd rather go ahead and just Buccaneer on 3 or prepare for Countermagic.
Right. I think Mimic doesn't do anything for this deck, so we're just going to cut that completely.
Oh no, you want the Mimic because you want to mimic your battle beetles and your Boulder Brutes.
Well, I'm not sure if we even want to play Boulder Brute. I just have it in there because it's a 5-point card. Menacing Gralk is much, much better, actually.
Oh, yeah, you can mimic your Menacing Gralk. I mean, that's the Mimic is useful. I don't know if it's useful.
Like a one-of, maybe. Yeah, I mean, if we play it at all, it'll be a one-of. Because it's just so slow. That's the biggest problem with it. Again, Mimic is one that it says it creates a replica, which is a card that could be unique or not unique, and it puts it in your hand, and then you have to cast it. So you can't use this. Well, the replica has no resource threshold. So you can cast it even if it's your opponent's
It's really
thing.
nice to mimic your Buccaneers.
Right.
It's like getting 6
Mirror
of
Knight
them if you're running 2.
Right. I'm not sure that we want Peak in here. I don't think that we do really.
Because
there's no
good deck thinning though.
It is good deck thinning, but I mean, I think I'd rather have Oracle Song in a deck like this, and the reason why is because Oracle Song, I can target my opponent with it and also deck them if I wanted to. So it has that dual use. Not that you usually would do that. Peak is much more for getting to. I feel like getting to those 1-ofs and 2-ofs in that control shell. It's not really a control shell. This is more of a aggressive aggro deck. So we're just going to get rid of these peaks. And we may we're going to probably pick up an Oracle Song or 2 here instead. And this should help us smooth out our curve as well. I'm still wondering about the Chlorophyllia. With Boulder Brute, if we play him, we'll probably just play 1, and we'll play him with the gem where it gives him quick action, the Sapphire Mischief. That's what we will put in him. So he'll be mischiefy. So we can get some value out of him if we decide to play him at all, though he is still just a 4/4. He's really good in draft and not so great in constructed play.
Well, if Boulder Brute's in here with the quick gem, then really you'd rather have removal at that 5 cost.
Right.
So
I mean,
why not have a Polymorph Dingler in there instead?
Well, Dingler is really good too, but I mean the Boulder Brute's a body, so Dingler's it's good, and usually you're going to get the trade off on it, but Boulder Brute, I guess, could conceptually be better because you get the trade and a body. So I mean, it depends on what your feelings are, really. I mean, I don't think it'd be wrong to go either way. Wizard of Silver Talon doesn't really fit with this deck. I mean, I guess I can bounce it. I'm really seeing.
The Wizard of it's a little bit of that flying aggression. It's a lot better in a pure flight deck,
right?
One that basically boosts up the owl so that it's not an immediate kill. Now, the question you have to ask is, all right, you're pulling out the 4-flyer tech coming in here. What replacement do you want to put in there? How much are you going to be able to invest in with the Gralk coming down on turn 5?
Right.
Because at the moment, your turn 4 play is essentially dropping down Silver Talon. Turn 5 preferred is going to be the Gralk, or your turn 4 is going to be Tentacle Face guy of amazing. I can't be blocked, but then you don't need Gralk for him.
Right.
So
yeah, for Eldritch Dreamer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, also Eldritch Dreamer is gemmed with the where is it? Subterfuge. No, not Subterfuge. The one where it's no, it's the one where I thought when he deals damage, you deck him. I thought that's what it was. I guess not. Maybe it's not that one.
No.
There is no. Is there a card that does that?
Blood, I think.
Oh, it's in Blood. Okay, so he must have been with draw a card. He's probably on draw a card.
Yeah, another reason. This kind of one you're going to need gas.
Yeah, I think that Eldritch Dreamer is just so much better than Silver Talon. I mean, he's a little bit clunkier because he's got that double threshold, but we'll get rid of Silver Talon.
Well,
here.
now that we have the shards and shards of fate in there, double threshold's not a problem. The things that become a problem when you've got shards of fate and constructed are triple thresholds.
Right. Pulled the Crash of Beast because it doesn't really fit with the theme that we're going with here.
Correct.
Still a powerful card that's kind of seen a lot less play than it used to be. Probably criminally underplayed at this point.
Well, it's got to ebb and flow, because if it doesn't ebb and flow, everyone's just already prepared for it. We got 300 amazing cards. We can't all play them simultaneously, as much as I want to.
I really like the Ancestors Chosen in this deck, as it's going to help you not deck yourself. Not that you should be worried about that, but probably 2 is perfectly fine in this deck.
I was actually less happy about the Ancestors Chosen.
Well, I slotted this in. He didn't have it in the original build.
My argument against the Chosen is it's putting in 2 cards a turn when you're trying to pull out utility, and that makes getting to your utility more expensive.
Sure.
Because you're putting in 2/2 flyers, that gives you some good aggression when you're getting there.
Yeah.
But a 2/2 flyer without the ability to boost it with the aerial support card, air superiority, means they all still die to heat wave, or they all everything still dies to extinction. And this one with that control shell, you're going to have 2 to 3 troops generally. If you're hitting en masse, you're probably overextended, unless your Ancestors Chosen and you just draw.
Yeah, the other big problem I'm already seeing too is we just have so many, like, our thresholds are really expensive in this deck, so we might actually consider throwing in an Adaptable Infusion device, like maybe 2 of those right now, as it's going to fix us. It's another thing where we could do that instead of Chosen to help for the fixing, because there's a lot of double and triples in here right now.
Now, a very subtle form of discard that might be fun for this is actually Twisted Fate, if I remember its name correctly, because Adaptable Infusion device triggers. Every time your Dreamer hits, triggers it. A lot of that side draw, Mirror Knight, every time a creature dies, triggers it. That kind of thing can be a lot of good value over time, maybe as a 2 of at highest.
I'd say maybe as a 1 of. It's a buff, if we're going to play it at all. But it's definitely an interesting idea, especially when we're playing like Oracle Songs, some other stuff. Of course, that makes us want to play Bertram a little bit more than Running Deer. I mean, it wouldn't be wrong to try. I mean, you'd really have to play this deck to get a good feel for what you need and what you don't need in it, for sure. So I think we're going to take our Battle Beetles down to 2 now.
Yeah, I generally like Battle Beetle sitting at 2 because of that 6 resource cost.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times you're wanting to leave the 2 to 3 resources open to be able to perform your interactive cards. And that's actually one of the things that I don't like about and this is my personal opinion, but I don't like about an instant 5 resource troop, is you have to leave 5 resources open. You're telegraphing hardcore at that point that something is waiting for you.
Maybe.
Because I am a blue control deck.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, they should expect it, but sometimes you got to play into that as well. So, I mean, there's both sides of that.
Oh, I played into it pretty often. I've looked at games where I'm like, he's got a repel in hand. I know why they left 2 resources open.
Right.
This is going to hurt. Swing.
Right. I mean, yeah, because even though you may know it's there is a lot of times where it doesn't matter because you still have to play into it. I guess we'll reduce this Oracle Song down by 1. Let's see. We need get rid of at least 2 or 3 more cards. We probably want the full 24 resources in this deck.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. So, and we'll figure that out. Let's do a deck analysis to consider. Okay, we got tons of Sapphire in this deck, so that's probably what we're going to prioritize here. Something in our 2-point range. I really don't want to get rid of these Mirror Knights because they're just so good.
How many are we running here? I can't see the...
We're running a play set of Mirror Knights. Oh, is it? It's over too far?
You can probably trim 1 Mirror Knight for utility's sake.
Right. I mean, or we could get rid of the Time Ripples. I'm not a really huge fan of Time Ripple.
Are we running a full play set of Time Ripple?
No, we've got 2. I took it down to 2. He had 4 at the beginning. 4 Buccaneer is fine though because he's still a body.
You want the Buccaneer. The Time Ripple is good because it can hit any card.
Right. I mean, that's the big
constant
thing.
removal for.
I think I'd rather just run it in the reserves. I mean, it's so hard to play right now because we still don't have best of 3 casual matches, and so we can't really try out stuff with reserves properly. I really feel like I would play this in reserves.
Now I do see is that a Mesmerize down there too?
Yeah, I have Mesmerize for removal as a two Mesmerize for removal. It's not great removal, but it is removal. Probably not really that necessary.
Well, because if we're looking to trim it a little bit,
yeah,
we've got 4 Buccaneer for removal. We have Time Ripples for removal. That's 6. Do we want the 2 Mesmerize there?
Yeah,
because
I went ahead and pulled
anything that Mesmerize solves, Time Ripple or Buccaneer can also solve.
Yeah, well, except the difference is that Mesmerize solves it permanently, whereas Time Ripple and Buccaneer solve it for a turn. So, I mean, it depends on if we feel like we're tempo or if we feel like we're a deck that needs a little bit of real removal. So, I think this is pretty good. You'd have to really try this out and tune this, but I really like where the curve is going here. The biggest problem I'm seeing is there's a ton of Sapphire and not a lot of Wild. We do have a lot of fixing in Wild, though, to help out with that. So we've got the 4 Chlorophyllia, and then we've got the 4 Howling Brave, which is going to help that out a lot. The double thresholds we have in Wild are the Battle Beetle, and that's it. Like, we're running all Sapphire, so we're pretty heavy in Sapphire. So probably something like a 12-8 or a 13-7 split is what we should be doing here.
I think in this case I'd like the 13-7 split a little bit more because of the power of Chlorophyllia.
Yeah, I mean,
and also the power of just the Howling Brave. So I mean, Howling Brave comes in, you have to at least have 1 wild shard in. As soon as the Brave hits, you've got your second threshold. As soon as you got a Chlorophyllia, you've got your second.
I mean,
threshold.
There's almost no chance that you're not. By the time you get to 6 resources, you're not going to have the 2 wild that you need for this Battle Beetle. Because you've just drawn so many shards to get there. Plus, you've got card drawing in the deck. You've got the 1 Oracle Song, the 2 Infusion Device. You've got Cerulean Mirror Knight to get you some card draw when your stuff dies. It should be an interesting deck to play. I have a hard time. I don't know if this is really even going to be tier 2 decks right now. But this should be a fun deck to play, is what I would say.
It would definitely be a fun deck. It's actually it's not very aggro. It's very patient in its design presently. So you're not trying to bust creatures out quickly. You're waiting for that perfect time to strike, sort of set. I mean, because and plus with the way your Battle Beetle's gemmed, you're waiting and killing the resources before they draw them. So it's a very patient deck. But it's got the right amount of removal in case you start getting a little bit of over aggro.
Well,
I definitely put some yesterdays in the sideboard though.
Yeah, I mean, in your reserves, I mean, we're definitely gonna have like 2 more Time Ripple. What else would you have? Probably another Menacing Gralk. There's a chance that you don't want to run this Boulder Brute, but you really got to try it out, see how you feel about it.
You know what? Another one that would be fun just as a as kind of a
the
trick
Twisted
card.
Fate. But you'll probably maybe run 1 Twisted Fate and then a play set of what's it called? The Escalation Sapphire.
And you know what? I would throw in a flavored Jadiim in there.
Jadiim is also another one we could have main decked instead of Gralk. We could probably do that actually. Yeah, we could probably main deck a Jadiim. Of course, that depends on what you have available to you. But that sounds a lot more fun anyway, so we're going to do that.
Well, the reason I like the
we
idea
need some more help
of
in the wild side.
Just the balance of the Sapphire right now. Like, if you switch the Gralk with Jadiim, you're really, really a wild deck.
Right.
But and the fact that you can just flip those cards and go wild is powerful.
All right, so at this point in time, we are going to do the giveaway. We're basically done with the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed looking at that deck and everything else. I know this is kind of a busy, all over the place episode. So we are giving away a beta access. I'll be getting that key out to somebody via your Twitch email. Make sure it is that you're subscribed to me, because if I roll you and you're not subscribed to me, it's going to be very embarrassing for you. So last time I said the same thing and people still weren't subscribed to me. So Not counting Mokog and myself, I'm looking at the channel. It's pretty thin today. I know I didn't really broadcast it that much, but definitely look at all the next week. We got a whole bunch of other content providers that should have some keys to give out as well if you didn't win tonight. I'd also hope that if you are in the beta and there's somebody else that isn't, that you would be getting another person in. So looks like I've only got, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to switch to camera 2 here and let it kind of, hopefully it'll focus a little bit. Camera 2. We're going to camera 2. Hopefully it's going to focus a little bit. Looks like it's focusing there. Looks like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm counting 8 people in channel, which means we're going to use the wonderful D8. The D8 gets a lot of use in Dungeons and Dragons, so I've got it here. We're going to throw it over here. You guys are going to see it for yourselves. So here we go. And it's number 3. So this looks like Sindmortadelia. So Sindmortadelia, you will be getting a key. I'm going to check your status right now. So hopefully you're subscribed to me. Otherwise, it's going to be very embarrassing for you. And if not, you better subscribe to me like in the next 2 seconds as I'm checking you right now. So I am checking Sindmortadelia right now on my Twitch. Sindmortadelia. Sounds like it could be a female.
Well, if it's Spanish,
Let's see everybody in chat.
So the 7th death of her, maybe?
Viewer list, and we're going to check out that person's Twitch TV. Yeah, I know. Right?
Subscribe.
Following 5, following me. Congratulations. I will send you a Twitch key in the next 30 minutes after the episode is over. But we're going to do a wrap up right now, Mokog and I. But yeah, definitely look for that Twitch key through your Twitch messaging. So I haven't seen you before, so I'm guessing you are new, and hopefully this will be you'll be in on the beta sometime soon. Hopefully even tonight, because we do have a long weekend this weekend with Memorial Day coming up. So yeah, so I'll just kind of go over some stuff with Mokog, and we will be out. You're from Argentina. Well, Sindmortadelia from Argentina. Congratulations. So tonight we had a guest recording with MSB, so make sure to check out all this material. If you're looking at this on YouTube, I will be linking it below. We did a patch update where we talked about the new auction house, and I had Hex Hunter Mokog on. He came on episode 11, and now he's on episode 31. So guess what? Expect him on episode 51. He comes every 20 episodes or so to just come and harass the show. He's a good friend of mine. Make sure to check out his material as well.
It doesn't have to be every 20 episodes.
Well,
next time I won't take a 4-month break, okay?
So then we also talked about the Google, YouTube buyout of Twitch and what that might mean for some of the different streamers that are out there. Then we did a deck doctor with this kind of hidden deck that's going to try to mill your opponent out while it's beating them in the face. Then we gave out
DCG Pro winner, I'm telling you.
And then we gave out our first beta key for this channel ever to Sindmortadelia from Argentina. So other than that, this is Aaron Squire signing off, saying God bless you and your families. Try not to rage too much. And Hex Hunter Mokog saying, I don't know, something. What?
I'm Hex Hunter Mokog, and I normally just say bye.
All right.
Y'all have a great evening.